trading is 80%, maybe even 90% psychology. I've seen traders completely flip out, go crazy. I've taught hundreds, thousands of people. I honestly believe everybody can learn how to trade. But it doesn't make you a trader. For us, it's an extreme selection process. They come with their own accounts and their own experiences and their own trading accounts showing 3 years, 4 years or more of experience. And that's when we would even start looking in them. The more risky is only opening up to you for the higher amount. It's just a me moment that I use my weekend for. And even that it's work, it doesn't really feel like work, because I feel if I prep myself better, then the rest of my week will go smoother. Otherwise, you have 5 days of stress and then try to relax for 2. When I finished the half a marathon, another guy came flying from the corner, finishing a full marathon. At the beginning of the holiday, you're always on this high stress level. And I see it in our own firm that people go on holiday and the first message I get is like, I was sick for 2 or 3 days. Then I got better and then I had a great holiday.
Welcome to the Help Lead podcast, where we interview high performers and high achievers from various walks of life. Today's guest is Boss Kooijman. I'm super excited to talk to this guy. When you hear about him, it's crazy. You're like, does this guy have a secret code to getting more than 24 hours in a day? He does so much. It's mind-baffling to me. He's the CEO of DHF Capital. It's a securitization firm that's all about democratizing investing. It's basically getting opportunities that usually you need millions and millions of dollars for and making it accessible to everybody. So it's low-key a Robin Hood in this way. And in addition to all of that, it just doesn't stop there. He's an author. He's writing his second book. He's a father. He's a trader. He's a teacher. What doesn't this guy do? Very, very excited to get into all of that and how we deal with the mental stress of it all. When he's not crushing it in the finance world, you can find him on a bike around Europe, raising money for underprivileged kids. He loves sports. He's a family man. It's pretty exciting. So he's just a person who lives his life very authentically, and I'm very happy that he's on the show. So welcome to the show, boss.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. First question I always ask is kind of an open-ended question, because I always like to hear how people you hear all this stuff on the internet and you're like, oh, he does this. He's on the Forbes list. He's on this. He's on this. He's on this. How do you view yourself? Who is Boss Kooijman? So let's start
That's a very interesting open question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that staying authentic might be just one of the main goals. I am a trader. I trade for more than 10 years. I'm an IT guy as well. I built my IT firm first from very young age. I switched to telecom, the digital side of telecom. And I chose after selling my telecom firm to really stay on that finance side. But I'm still the guy who can just program in the middle of the night and make something new or create something new. So I think it's like looking at what you really like to do. What would you do if you had all the time in the world? And you'll probably find me somewhere behind a computer programming something new, next to all the more public side of things of running a company.
I love it. And I think it's one of those things where you hear, it's like you follow your passion, follow what's interesting to you, right? And you were in telecom and then you're in finance, et cetera. You followed what interested you. And, people sometimes get scared of that, right? Where it's saying, look, I've dedicated so much time and effort in this one area. Do I really just completely pivot or go somewhere else in a different direction? But it sounds as you just hear about all these rewarding stories about when you do follow passion, you find the energy and find ways of success through that. But from that, I guess the big question, right? So you're a CEO, you're a father, you're an author, you're everything. How do you balance it all? How do you keep that without burning out, right? Or maybe you do burn out, who knows? Yeah. But just tell me, how do you rationalize in your head? You're like, do I just keep going? Don't think about it? Or is it more structured? Tell me about it.
Yeah, I think when I saw your original topic of the podcast, how are you handling stress? The funny thing is we met through DHF, where you said, okay, if I trade myself, I might be stressed. If I handle my own portfolio, I might be stressed. So you give it to someone else. And then you became client of DHF. So now I handle your stress for doing it, as in trading for other people. I think it's very interesting when you're trading your own money, for example, versus someone else. I've seen traders completely flip out, go crazy the moment other people's money gets involved. Because it's one thing to lose your own money, potentially, but it's a worse feeling and psychology treat of having other people's funds and responsibility that comes with that. Trading is 80%, maybe even 90% psychology. The trading part itself is you search for trades, you enter that trade, and mostly you have to wait. You have to wait for when to start, you have to wait for when to close the trade, and there's a lot of waiting involved. And this waiting part is the patience part, where you have to be patient and you have to control all emotions that come with, should I go in already, but I might be too early? I just missed it. Should I still go in? Or do I just accept that I missed it? And when I'm in there, should I go out? Is it going well or is it not going well? If it's not going well, do I trust myself enough that I just have to wait for it to correct itself? Or should I take my losses? Do I need to just cut the trade here? Cut your losses short and let your winners run. It's a very easy saying, but it's extremely hard to do.
Yeah, it's that, like you said, in those waiting moments, that's where your like head and the doubt comes in. And
Absolutely.
like you said, like when I was trying to trade and getting into all of that, I looked at it and I realized like how stressed I was getting in the waiting game, right? It's like, okay, I took this action, I took these options, whatever it may be, and then just waiting, like, is it right? Is it right? Then it dips a little, then it goes up. You're just like monitoring it, just consume my thoughts. And that's why I wanted to get someone professional involved, right? And to kind of take that burden away from me and to say, hey, look, this is your profession, your career, whatever it may be. And so it's like, you study this because that's what you need to do. You need to put the time and effort and study the charts and understand the different like ways the economy goes and keep up with news and things like that. And so it's like, look, I wanted to take that off of my plate. I feel that there has to be some sort of stress when you realize, is it something that you just mentally check out? Like, hey, look, I just know when I need to enter, when I need to get out, and just almost come at it as a, like they take, they say remove emotion from it, right?
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier said than done.
It's basically, are you a professional or are you just dabbling in the market? So I think it's great when people are looking for doing things like this themselves. I've taught hundreds, thousands of people. I honestly believe everybody can learn how to trade, but it doesn't make you a trader. So I can show you the strategies, I can show you the software, I can show how it works when you maybe should enter based of that strategy, which is mostly a set rule book, basically, which takes the emotions out. So it's like, if all the rules are yes, like I've seen immense spreadsheets from traders that are also in our teams, immense spreadsheets of what all should be ticked box before they would enter. If something is off, they don't enter. And that's the difference between a professional and a person who says like, oh, okay, I have 5 rules for myself. I see 3 are right. 4th one is a doubter. 5th, not really, but I'm still entering. And that's the moment where you change actual bit of a gamble versus a strict rule book that you have an edge. In trading, it's all about having that edge. And it means you should win 51% or more of your trades. If you have that and you have your risk management in place, you can honestly make money trading. But it's so difficult to manage the emotions on the 49% of losing.
Interesting. I know with like DHF, you guys have some top traders and you guys have some crazy good returns. And, personally, I'm benefiting from it as well. And that's very exciting. Just curious, when you guys bring people in, right? I'm sure there's hundreds of traders out there and they want to work with DHF and be able to like prove themselves. Hey, like we're worthy of, we can do some of the top trades in the world. Have you noticed that there are certain characteristics or qualities in these guys that are pretty common that you're like, hey, look, these are pretty good indicators that they're going to be a good trader and this is what we look for on our team?
Mostly a bit from the technical side, actually.
Okay.
So you have fundamental traders and technical traders. And if you want to grow the firm to a high number of traders, you almost have to stay on the technical side. There's just more choice. We have on average 2,000 applicants of people who would like to trade professionally. For us, it's an extreme selection process. They come with their own accounts and their own experiences and their own trading accounts showing 3 years, 4 years or more of experience. And that's when we would even start looking in them. When that happens, we would say, okay, come to our firm. We trade another half a year on a demo account, which means that there's no real money allocated to the account, but you have to explain your PM, your like basically the asset managers, what you're doing, why you're doing it, how it's going. So we try to co-understand how that process goes in your head, how it works, how you deal with things. And then again, demo money is completely different from real money. So it can go great for half a year, and then you allocate $50,000, $100,000 to a trader like that. And that's where we will see if the emotional part works or not. Because we have risk management in place. Maybe they can, from that 50,000, only lose 5. And they can maybe not lose more than 1 per day, for example, or 500 a day. So it can never go wrong in one day, but they will have bad days. And that's the coaching part that I personally also really like. The coaching part, the supportive part, also handling good days or good weeks. Sometimes they have a smashing week by Wednesday evening or Thursday morning. And I'm saying, okay, thank you so much. You did an amazing job. Please go have an extremely long weekend. I see you Monday, maybe Tuesday. Because the winning streak will not last forever either.
True. Short-term memory, right? You have to keep proving yourself.
You need
over
to
and over
reset.
Again.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. Okay. I know there's a lot of people like in social media, right? We're in this age where it's like, hey, look, this is going to influence us. It's like, hey, people are showing they're like becoming millionaires overnight. You know, everyone shows the good. They don't really show the bad from that perspective. And so then people get influenced, right? They're like, hey, look, this is that easy. I just need to start. I need to buy GameStop or something. And then all of a sudden I can be an overnight millionaire. We know that's not true, but I feel like always influenced in this way. What are like the common mistakes that you feel that a lot of people, if they're investing for themselves, what do they run into? Like, what are those issues? You say, hey, look, if I saw this, this is a big red flag or something.
So mostly we always say when it's too good to be true, it probably is. On the other side can like have a negative effect if that's your constant mindset. If I would have that mindset all my life, I would also not have progressed as much as I try to do. So it's a combination where you say like, okay, if it's too good to be true, like millionaire overnight because you buy this course for $100, you kind of use the common sense knowing that that's not going to be real. I personally would always look if someone also has negative days. So if you look into a strategy and he says like, I have a great result for 4 years, I only look at your negative days and your negative months. And it almost feels like grilling the negative, but I want to know how you handle the negative side of your positive strategy. Basically, when too good to be true, but still realistic is where I try to teach people what is still realistic. Because people can come to us saying 10% a year is real estate related, 16% a year is beating the average of the S&P 500, and 20% is impossible because you would tell me it's too good to be true. But 20% a year is uneducated because it is possible. It's not too good to be true. What too good to be true is 100% in a day or 100% in a month and 100% in a year. I have seen that happen. So it's all about how does that 100% is created and what kind of risk was taken to create that result. Because 100% win, double your money or lose it all, that's just put everything on red in a casino. It's a 50-50 chance. And there are firms who actually have those products. And if you have the risk appetite with part of your wealth to actually go into a strategy like that, then that's a strategy that fits you. But if you're 60 years old and you have almost no risk appetite anymore, you want to conserve your wealth, you want to conserve whatever you've built up all your life, maybe you want to buy a AAA rated bond or a US Treasury bond that gives you 5% a year with less to no risk. And I think that's the main point. So what do you do with your portfolio? Which part could be at risk? What's the age? Mostly it's age. Because if you're in your 20s and you have maybe saved up $20,000, or you happen to receive a certain amount of money that you can actually look at investing, that's a moment where you can say, okay, I have all my life to still make it up. I might have a good job. I'm not unemployed. Everything is paid for in generally with my salary. Yeah, you maybe want to risk 10K on a bit more aggressive strategy. Not the double or nothing, but maybe a 20 or 30% risk versus 20 or 30% a year. That's a 1-to-1 risk. It's fine that those strategies exist. But the 30% a year probably comes with about 30% risk. If it comes with more than that, it's not good. If it comes with less than that, it's a great trader.
Definitely. And I know, like you said, as people like live their lives, they're different phases of life, they can take their risk appetite based on that. I know that there's a lot of times where, they get into the hype of, hey, I want to get rich quick, right? We know, hey, look, if it's out there, That's probably not it's probably not true. So then there's a component of it too, though, where it's like, hey, if I'm an individual, maybe I don't have enough. Like I know DHF gives a lot of different types of vehicles to be able to invest with a lower amount of capital, but sometimes you don't even have enough for that. What is your advice to the individual trader? Hey, look, I have a little bit of money saved up. I want to get into investing. You know, there's all these things of like the get rich quick scheme is the sexy thing that everyone looks at and you're like, okay, I buy into that hope or whatever, and playing on that emotion. But I feel like there's not enough people talking about what are the unsexy things, right? What are the practices and true things that like maybe someone doesn't tell you that says, hey, look, these are the things, if you have a little bit of money and you're trying to build wealth over the long period of time, what should you do to start in those spaces? So what would you say to people like this?
It's extremely difficult to answer because there's a huge gap and we are trying to close that gap as far as possible. But for us in Luxembourg regulated funds, the minimum is 125,000 euro or equivalent in other currencies, for example, $150,000. People struggle to get to that level. And the question is, how do you get there? And mostly that is the really boring way of saving. You can, of course, choose things like S&P 500 ETFs that are available from $100, which on average grows about 8% a year, but really depends when you get in. Because if you get in today, when it's quite a very high S&P 500 price ticker, it might have an issue. I don't say it's going to go down, but if it goes down in the next 2 years, you can say like, yeah, the average was 8% up, but you had a very bad entry moment. So mostly opportunities start to unfold. The right opportunities start to unfold about $25,000 or $50,000. So I would say anything under that is still the saving game. Because 1,000 here to try something, 1,000 there to try something. If you try 10 things, you might have better saved up 10 and do something that's more serious, more regulated, more available. And there is availability in funds for retail, where retail is non-professional investors. They give maybe a bit less returns, but they are there to also keep your initial deposit safe. So the more risky is only opening up to you for the higher amounts. It's also when regulators say, okay, you know, because you got to this level, you now know how you can make this kind of money. So you also need to understand the risks yourself. And you need to read those prospectuses of 30, 50 pages and learn and know what's in there and what your risks are.
Interesting. Yeah, when I went through the journey, I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. But one piece of advice that I got that I found helped me, and I don't know if it's smart logic or not, but it was just like, set it and forget it, in the sense is like, hey, look, if I'm going to invest this money, even if it was like, $50, $100, whatever it may be, and like, okay, I liked, Google or Amazon or whatever it may be, I just bought the stock and then almost forgot that I didn't have it. Because when I keep checking, okay, how did it do today? Was this? You just pull your hair out,
you
right?
have emotions.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Stress.
Exactly. I follow the Warren Buffett advice, like buy into companies that you like and then you believe in, and then just let it go, because the idea is the world is going to grow and become better and bigger and everything like that. And so then it helped build that. And that's what helped me from that perspective to build a little bit of savings. And then I had that initial amount that I needed to be able to invest with something a little bit more serious, like you were saying.
Yeah, and only invest in things you understand is a very good additional advice to that you invest in things that you like. Because if you just don't understand it, or if it sounds too difficult or too complicated, or it's just an area that you don't have that interest, like you have a natural interest in what you like. So that's probably the part that you do understand. And that mix is, I think, a very good start for people to invest in.
Love it. So switching gears a little bit, tell me a little bit about a time that you've burnt out. So you do so much, and as awesome as you sound, I'm sure there are times where you feel like it's all a little bit overwhelming. Absolutely. Tell me a time that happened, and how did you go through it? Like, how did you work through it, and what did you do? Was it physical activity? Did you talk to someone? Let me know.
Yeah, so I think it's an extremely interesting topic for entrepreneurs or people who have certain goals and want to level up. And in that level up, there's ups and downs. And what I felt a lot, especially during my IT and telecom time, it was really 24/7. So you can be at the Christmas table with your family, a server goes down, and everybody is with Christmas holidays, and you have to just leave that Christmas table, open your laptop, restart servers, and make sure that telecom still works, because we had even the 112 emergency line for part of the Netherlands within my telecom firm as a client. And that's the highest stress I ever felt in my life. We had a 14-minute window to solve anything coming up.
Whoa.
After 14 minutes, there would be ambulances driving in circles around Amsterdam because 112 would be unreachable for that region. And that pressure of making sure it works the whole year with almost no, like we had a 99.999 SLA, service level agreement, which means 104 minutes of downtime a year.
Okay.
With a maximum of 14 minutes per incident. Otherwise, we would have not met our goals. So those KPIs basically keep you on your toes for the whole year, except those 104 minutes.
Wow.
And those are the stressful moments to fix it as soon as possible. So that kind of stress did give me like the ups and downs. I can handle stress quite a lot. So I got kind of trained myself for my feeling with this kind of customers. That was very beneficial for my trading later on. But I also felt that I had 2 times a year, I call them mini burnouts.
Okay.
So it's like a 2-3 day window where you just are totally done with the world for a minute. So you're always on your toes, you're always running. And then there's just this moment where you say like, I want to have Netflix, I want to turn off my phone, I want to speak to absolutely no one, which basically are all the points of a burnout where you just sit in a corner and you can't get yourself to do anything anymore. And when I had those, I just realized that when you do take full time of yourself, the moment you feel something coming like that, take the 2-3 days, take the full break, tell a couple of people that are close to you, around you, like, this is happening to me, and please hold other people off, because they would message my wife or they would message an assistant and they would say like, where's boss? I can't reach him. And so just give him 2-3 days and then he's good for half a year again. So it's not all possible to just keep running for year after year. Like, there's moments that you have it, but those are the moments your body just tells you to take a quick break at least.
So it sounds like there's a form of like training to it a little bit of how you take on a little bit more stress and in those environments from there, but also, talking to somebody and say, hey, look, letting your circles know and be able to communicate that effectively to say, hey, look, I am in this phase. I think it's always these times where everyone says, oh, look, if you just live the perfect life, or like you just incorporate and have such the perfect level of work-life balance, which I don't know anybody who has that, to be honest. They say a work-life balance, but now with the age of the internet, 24/7 in communication, it's making it so much harder to have work-life balance, and it kind of bleeds into everything, right? And so they say to have this aspect. And so when people say, oh, I don't get burned out, or just, you just ignore it, you push through, just like scratch your head a little bit and you're like, maybe we're not digging deep enough. Or
no, but if you push too hard for too long, you might have a burnout of 2 months or even worse. And that's a moment that all the things you've built up in your company with the people around you will suffer from that as well. So your own result will make such a big step back. So probably better to take sometimes a weekend away. And I will never go back to international telecom anymore. I'm very happy on the finance side where the weekend is off.
Yeah.
So
markets
this
are closed.
is perfect. Friday night, markets close, and only Sunday night, Monday morning early, they open again. So we are living a 24/5 work lifestyle, and my family knows that, and people around me know that. But then it's Saturday, it's time for family. Sunday is time for family. I really like Sunday evening to work as in a preparation of my week, but it's just because it's alone time, and I'm able to prepare without anybody asking additional questions that I don't have time for during the week. So it's just a me moment that I use my weekend for. And even that it's work, it doesn't really feel like work, because I feel if I prep myself better, then the rest of my week will go smoother. Otherwise, you have 5 days of stress and then try to relax for 2. Your brain doesn't work like that.
It's planned. I love that.
So the Saturday is just try to shut off. We even had airplane mode Sundays with my wife together. We would both just put our phones in airplane mode for the full Sunday and even go out, and then we would say like, oh, we are in the city center, you can't use Google Maps, you can't use anything, you're absolutely digitally on zero, and you would go to a random restaurant that looks good instead of looking up Google reviews what has 5 stars and not, so it's an interesting way of, especially in this whole digital era,
to disconnect
to
a little
just
bit.
completely disconnect, at least for half a day on Sunday, for example.
I love that.
It does open up a lot more messages when you come out of airplane mode. So it is also that up and down. Yeah, that makes it also hard. But on a Sunday, or for example, that would would really work for us.
I think it's a nice exercise as well to be able to disconnect. I get into these things where sometimes my wife is driving or whatever it may be, and it's a drive that we've done 100 times, but because she's so programmed to put it into Google Maps or Waze or whatever it is, the moment that we don't do that, then it's almost like, oh, where am I going? What am I doing? I'm like, you've done this 100 times, right?
Yeah.
But we're so programmed that. So it's nice to say, hey, let's disconnect. And for some reason, I think when we do it, it's more along the lines of like when we're traveling, when we're going abroad, like, yes, you need to know, you've never been to these places before, so you need the Google Maps and stuff like that. But just to disconnect and say, hey, look, instead of looking at reviews, let's just go for a walk and find the local corner shop and ask and talk to them, hey, where's a good place to eat?
But people don't do that often anymore. It's always planning, always thinking, where should we go? Someone needs to make a decision if you go with a group. While on the other side, you can say, okay, I'm going to the IFC. We'll find a place that has a table for 4. But it's very hard to suggest this to people nowadays. They all want to know, okay, and probably you have to book. And it's better probably in busy areas like this to actually book. But there's probably one that doesn't need a booking, or you just, okay, you hear no 3 times in 3 different restaurants, and restaurant number 4 has a table.
Exactly.
It's a potential exercise maybe for someone to say, okay, I don't want to stress about this, and also experience this. I'm not planning.
Yeah.
Because my calendar is like the holy grail of my days, and it's insane. When people see my calendar, it's crazy. It's just like every half an hour is booked. It's full of Zoom calls, full of meetings. But on those other moments, I can just completely ignore this calendar and say like, oh, Saturday is an empty day, and we'll see what we do.
And it's funny because, like, you know, people say, you think about why a vacation feels so nice and people say it's such a good experience. I think it's because they're able to disconnect a little bit more from that perspective, and you don't put the expectation. When you're going and you're looking at a Google review, you see it and you're like, okay, this has 4.5 stars. This is going to be a good meal. And then you go there and you have it, and it's not up to what you think
So
in your mind. Then you have the expectations. But when you go on a vacation or something and you're just walking around to a local store, you go there, you have zero expectations, so you have no idea what might happen. Yes, you might have a bad meal once in a while. Okay. We have bad meals all the time, right? We have so many meals in our lives. Like, that's it. It's an experience. Maybe you laugh about it, make a joke about, remember that bad meal we had in Greece or whatever it may be, right? But then sometimes you might have an amazing experience. Some of the best times in my life have been like just talking to some local and saying, hey, where should we go? They introduce you to somebody, that you have a conversation, and that opens up another door, and you find yourself in a place or an experience that you never would have imagined if you had said every single minute of this day has been planned. So I think there's a component of like disconnecting from technology or whatever that may be to allow the mind to lower the expectation,
just
relax.
Declutter.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's a beautiful thing to say. It's like, hey, look, when you have so much going on, to have dedicated disconnect time or family time or whatever it may be, because otherwise I just find myself getting busier and busier and like, okay, I can handle it. And then at some point you realize like, look, I'm sacrificing either family time or friendships or relationships essentially to do a little bit of more work.
It's also why people mostly get sick on holiday. At the beginning of the holiday, you're always on this high stress level.
Yeah.
And I see it in our own firm that people go on holiday, and the first message I get is like, I was sick for 2 or 3 days. Then I got better, and then I had a great holiday.
You think is why? Is because their body has finally allowed themselves to like even accept to get sick?
I kind of believe that can be one of the reasons.
The mind and the body is a
the moment of relaxing and just letting everything go is kind of like it's maybe even you're fighting with a strong immune system during stress situations, even though stress reduces your immune system. But that's the moment the stress is gone, the body kind of allows you maybe to get it out.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I think, most people that you talk to, do get sick, or they're getting sick on the way back or something like that because they finally allowed the body to relax. Tell me a little bit about cycling. Cycling is a big part of your life. You do some cool things. I know you ride, and you do Ride for Kids and raise money for underprivileged kids. How did you get into cycling? What's your next feat? What are you up to? Tell me.
I think that a bit of extreme sports kind of fits my attitude to also like work-related things, like build new companies from scratch. It's a very active thing to do. It's nice 2-3 years of rush, for example, and then the company is set. So when I look into sports, I'm looking into like a big goal that is like too good to be true, or wouldn't be possible to do it without training and being a pro athlete. And I like to sign up for those events, even though my wife really doesn't like me to sign up for those events. Where one of them, for example, was a 300-kilometer bike ride in Finland around the lake in the shortest night. So it almost doesn't get dark. And it's a great experience. You start at 8 p.m. and you drive for 300 kilometers, one ride. There's stops on the way, there's food and water, and it's not a race. It's just something to complete. And everybody can do that. It is, of course, better to train for it. But then you have a very busy life, you forget to train, and that's the part where she says that's not good, because when you're training, of course, it's nice. But if you're not training, as in buy a bike on Sunday, try it out on Tuesday, and next Saturday you drive 300 kilometers, everybody thinks you're crazy. For me, the most important part is that completion is possible if you don't put the direct athlete, like I have to be over the finish line at 1 p.m. I'm okay to finish at 2 p.m. I'm okay to finish after with a lower, I would say a lower speed or a lower average. I'm doing it to complete. I'm doing it to disconnect, because you need to drive to Finland first. Then you go with your bike. You're a full day on the bike at night. Then you have to rest, and then you go back. So it's like a 4-day holiday moment to just focus on sports. So your brain can calm down. You're not really focusing on work. And it's just kind of a crazy thing to do that you come back with, and then other people are very interested in that you did it, but I didn't do it for them. I just did that for myself to unwind. And now I've signed up for the T100 here in Dubai, which is a triathlon. And I hate running, so I said, okay, one of my first goals would be to run half a marathon, which I did in Vilnius. And it's just because you put the goal for 21K, I know I couldn't run that without training. So it did give me multiple Wednesday evenings, Friday evenings, moments, even though crazy family life, just got the new baby, 3 months old.
Congratulations.
So thank you. It was just really intense to still keep with any training schedule to be able to complete a half marathon. But now it's like, okay, I did 21K there. So for the triathlon 18K, I kind of can check off. I know I'm able to do that. 80 kilometer of bike ride before it will be okay. 2 kilometer of swimming. I love swimming. Netherlands, we swim from a very young age. Everybody goes to swimming lessons, and everybody is very proud of how much quality in swimming Dutch people have. I agree, because it's a thing of life in the Netherlands. It's a water country, so everybody is really active in swimming. So I'm like, 2 kilometer swim, it's doable. 80 kilometer ride, the Al Quoz circle here in Dubai. There's a lot of people who do that. Every weekend there's people. Every morning you can't even rent a bike if you don't come before 6 or 7 a.m.
Yeah, that Kooijman cycle is beautiful.
So everybody can cycle 80 kilometer. You might not cycle it quick, or you might not have an athlete record, but you can. So you can swim, you can cycle, and for run, I do have to agree that needs some training, 18K. If you do all those things and you start training the mix of it, that's basically triathlon preparation, to say, okay, I'm swimming and biking, or I'm biking and running. If you do a couple of those trainings, I think you are more than prepared to take on a crazy challenge for people who think this is impossible, but it's not impossible.
So it sounds like when you do these things, one, I think that it seems you're very goal-oriented, right? You say, hey, look, as long as there's a goal in mind, and it's my own personal goal, right? So it's just finishing, or if there's a time frame, that's finishing. Part of it.
No, just not even a time. I can say I try to finish in 6 hours, but if it's 7, I wouldn't be disappointed. I think that's the difference. It's good to have a target, but it's a target based on health, or a target on, okay, 1 hour of swimming. Like I know athletes that are going to do this race. They swim it in 35 minutes. If I'm finishing the first 2K swim in under an hour, it's fine.
Exactly.
And I will, but it's also fine.
And you're just like exploring that, right? It's like, I think this aspect of like setting the goal for yourself and being able to do it. Some people are very lofty. Like, you know, you hear that, like the Elon Musks, right? Where they put what sounds like unrealistic goals. Like you hear about all the pressure he puts on his employees, but that's why we're able to get to Mars and what we're doing, right? Because he's putting such intense shooting for the, you know, they say shoot for the moon and you end up on a star, right? That kind of thing, where it's like, hey, look, you have put a hard deadline or a hard goal, and then no matter what, as long as you've ended up going towards that, you'll find you've gone a lot farther than you had.
No, I need the deadline, because if you say I'm one day gonna run half a marathon, you probably never will.
Yeah.
So sign up.
And
just sign up. Next September, Vilnius Marathon, Lithuania. Sign up.
Yeah.
And now you know you kind of have to do it, but you still have to do it for yourself, because I think comparison is the kill of all joy. The moment
Definitely.
when I finished the half a marathon, another guy came flying from the corner finishing a full marathon. What can I do? I'm happy for him. He made a record time for himself, probably, because he definitely was going for a time trial. And I'm happy I just completed. But if you compare that, you feel, oh, I did half of the kilometers in the same time, and you kill your joy from, I'm just happy I did what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, and I'm right there with the running component of it. I absolutely despise running. And I think it's that aspect of just being alone left in my head. I will play any sport under the sun or inside or in the water, whatever it may be. But when it's just running to run, it's always been a very, very challenging thing for me. But that's why, like,
But
when
if
I
you
was,
put a goal that you choose yourself, not by someone else again, just you choose, I want to do this run, then you make Nike Running Coach free app in your ears. It will talk to you the whole way, first 5K, even less, 3K at the start.
I actually did that in back when I was in California. I did the Nike half marathon, but it was purely from setting that goal of saying, look, I don't like to do this. I need to put, like, I want to see it if I can do it.
Yeah.
And so I went, and like you said, I was able to complete it, and that was my whole goal, right? And I was
That's
like,
perfect.
look, you did a little bit of training, but I never ran the whole thing. And Nike training app, all
That's
the tools.
also what people think. To train for half a marathon, you need to run half a marathon all the time. And it's not true. If you run 16K without an issue before race day, you will make 21 as well. So you don't have to run half a marathon every weekend to run half a marathon. You run 5Ks, you run 8Ks. And I think what I like about running is the statistical numbers that are very comparable to life, to trading, and other things. It's like, if you can do an 8K, you probably can do a 10. If you can do a 10, you can do a 16. And then the race day with 100 people or 1,000 people around you in your city, with supporters, with music, they put DJ stands everywhere. It's all happening. You will definitely push yourself even a bit more, even if you don't like it. You will just run smoother. There's a lot of other people, and not to compare yourself with, but just because it's an activity. It's a feeling of doing this together, and then you do it. You
Yeah.
don't give up. You see, like, why would I give up? The other ones are not giving up. So you just kind of keep going.
One thing that's helped me actually is that, and again, it goes from, yes, there's a community sense of we're doing something, and that kind of pushes you and motivates you, and we're all doing this together, like kumbaya feeling almost. And
Yeah.
you're like, hey, we're all there. We hit the finish line together, and you're like eating the orange slices and the bananas afterwards. And you're like, yeah, we did this, and you feel good. It's this like natural high almost,
Yeah.
right? But I think there's the other side, and what I've enjoyed now is more about like my own personal battles and my own personal records or goals, right? And so I love being able to see my own data around things too. And so when I play a lot of basketball, and when I do is like I'll go and play, and then I'm like, oh, how much? And so now I use my Whoop, and I see that, okay, look, hey, I've recovered the next day, and it tells me, hey, you've actually recovered, and I'm still in the green. And I'm like, wait, I'm still in the green, and I felt like I pushed myself yesterday. I was like, look, I didn't. I can push myself more, and it tells myself. And so now when I like the loose ball goes, I'm the one diving for it, or I'm the one hustling a little bit more. If the ball goes out of bounds, I'm the one running it down because I want those extra stats. And hey, I know that I can push myself a little bit more. And so it's not a comparison to anybody else, but it's like, hey, look, this is my data and my stats and my, this is what my heart rate is doing, et cetera. And so like, hey, I can push myself that much more and become stronger for it. And so it's nice to know that, hey, look, we're in an age of tools and strategies that can say, hey, look, I can perform even better than for the goals that I set out for myself.
Yeah.
So.
No, I'm a very big fan of Whoop for using it for years. What I really feel is that it's not only good for sports, it's now also having the stress meters. And of course, there's competitive technologies out there, because you can sit all day in an office, but have a very stressful day and then still have a high strain on your heart and body. While other days you kind of groove through the day, but you feel tired. And then at the end of the day, you actually have that energy left. You have that option to still go for a run. But if you don't measure it, you would say, I'm tired, I'm just going to watch Netflix and just going to go to sleep. But now you know that you have that option. On the other side, you can say, I had a very productive day, which was very stressful for my heart and body, and I feel all ready to go for a run. But actually, you measured that you shouldn't. And then you should say, I need to rest, I need to calm down, and then tomorrow is another day, and maybe maybe I do a morning run with all this energy that I have left and my mindset being ready. But if I push myself today, I will have a bad night's sleep. I will have a bad recovery. Yeah, especially now with the baby. You wake up every 2-3 hours.
Yeah, your sleep on that thing is probably all over the place.
But then you can still run half a marathon. I think it's just the hashtag no excuses. It's a very big part of my goal setting as well. Like,
I love it.
People come to me and say, like, I would feel so great to finish half a marathon. I was like, okay, let's do it. Everybody can. Everybody can become a trader. Everybody can become a certain form of athlete in a certain sport for at least a basic level.
Well, I know we're getting to that time, but for our listeners, if you had to go back and say, like, let's say you're talking to your 25-year-old self, what is that advice that you would give them? Goals. Okay.
Like, I think if you would go out on the street and ask people what's your goal, that there is so many people who would not have one. And if they have one, they probably didn't define it. If they find it, they probably didn't write it down. And like, I think those things are important. It's the self-reflection. It's also the communication with the peer group around you, peer group, your partner, very important. Like, what's your goal? Why do you want to do this? Like, why are you signing up for something like this? Or why are we, like, we at home have a lot of the discussion about, like, we can be comfortable. Like, we have some real estate invested, for example, at this moment. And if I would just not work and just live off the real estate, we probably can. Let's say cash flow neutral.
Yeah.
But what then? Sit at home all day? And then maybe say, okay, then I'm going to run a lot and bike a lot and do triathlons all over the world, but I would not have money for flights because we only have a basic life. But sometimes you're super stressed and that basic life sounds very attractive. But also you have goals. If you want a very active lifestyle, you probably have to keep working hard. Settling down is always possible. You just go to the lowest amount of costs you can and find some form of income. You probably can pay your bills. But is it a very interesting life? Is it a life with goals that make you grow and people around you? So I think that's very interesting. I think it also is a bit of the inspiration you give to your team. It's like, there are goals. We want to go there as a company. What are your goals to get there? When someone does a job interview with me, I'm asking, what do you want to earn in 5 years? I don't care what your salary request is today. Of course, for budget perspective, we need to know. But I want to know someone's goal in 5 years. What do you want to earn? What's your dream salary? What's the most you ever earned?
Interesting.
These are very important numbers for me to see if someone has a mentality to work, especially in finance.
Definitely. And they'd say that comfort is the killer of dreams and goals, right? So if you don't have the goal and you're just trying to live comfortably, you're almost aimless. Like, where am I going left, right, and center?
So I think having the goals, writing them down, discuss them with your partner, discuss them with your peer group, and they should be big. You should be having a big goal. If the goal is something you already did or something you're just repeating, like there's this saying about a guy who said, I want to buy a new Toyota Prius. It's like, okay, what are you driving right now? Toyota Prius. When did you buy it? 4 years ago. So you bought it new because it's 4 years old. It's like, so you just keep doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And I don't say you have to straight go from a Prius to a Bentley, but is it a material goal? Is it a financial goal? It can be a goal of finding the right partner and thinking about that. What is the right partner? What is the goal? What do I need to become to get the right partner? So all areas of life, there are goals that only if you think about them and define them, you will be able to chase them.
I think it's one of those things too where it's this aspect. I heard this thing about an athlete, train it like an athlete, whatever those goals may be. So there is like a preseason, right, where you're like, hey, you're setting those goals and seeing what's out there. Then there's in season where it's like, hey, look, you're putting your head down and grinding for that, whether it's a long-term, short-term goal, whatever it may be. And then there's the off season. So it sounds like even what you were saying about burnout earlier, it's like, hey, look, you might need those 2-3 days to just kind of reset, right? So it's like, and I love that. I've been trying to apply that in so many different ways from that perspective. So thank you. Thanks for taking the time and being on the pod. Is there anything else you want to tell everyone out there about Boss Kooijman, DHF? The floor is yours if you want to.
Not specifically.
Okay.
I think it's just very important that if everybody would set a financial goal, you can start looking into options. And it's very important. There's very important points here in Dubai. I think we can talk for hours. There's like things like pension might not be arranged. You need to do those things yourself. Just stay educated, right? It's very nice to watch Grey's Anatomy hospital series for fun, where you can choose some more educational things if you don't want to go into medical space. There's podcasts like yours, and there's a lot of information out there, and we are living in this information era that my son is 4 years old and he learns from everywhere. And what I'm very interested in is that when he has his breakfast, we sometimes say, just watch Bluey, or just watch something like, you know, like something, whatever you want, just eat your breakfast. Sometimes parents just want them to eat breakfast, whatever you're watching.
However
and
you
he
can.
takes his iPad and he would record in YouTube because he couldn't type yet at that point. And he would say layers of the earth. And he would watch a informational video on YouTube Kids about geographical stuff.
I love it.
And I didn't know all the core layers of the earth. I probably learned it once in high school, but I forgot that. It's not my interest point today. I see just where kids growing up now have so much access to all this information. It's being explained for kids-friendly level, till 6-year-olds. YouTube Kids is full of it. And then you grow to the normal YouTube, and then you grow to podcasts and whatever is available. And if you just have that interest, you can teach yourself so much.
Just be curious. Have that curiosity of a child, right?
I never went to more than high school. You
And
know
look
that.
what you've done, man.
So,
Like,
but the point is like, not to prove the point is that the educational system is not worth it because you need very specific education for certain jobs. But having a goal of a certain thing you want to do and just go and build it is a good second option.
definitely. And I feel like, you know, we can talk a whole podcast on that, the education system and how it's failed so many people. But you see all these people coming out like yourself who have succeeded in alternative ways of study and work and stuff like that and have come out successful. So, you know, there's a different system to be looking at. But
It's a good mix. Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you.